Well, here we are, and we are finally here on Maundy Thursday. Now we've gotten to the named days of Holy Week. And if you grew up in the high church, the more formal or liturgical traditions of Christianity, you might have heard it called Maundy Thursday. Non-denominational Bible churches like Tomball Bible don't often refer to things by their liturgical name or necessarily have a big celebration or worship service of any kind on Maundy Thursday. We do have a Good Friday service, which we will have tomorrow. But Maundy Thursday is the commemoration and the celebration of Jesus washing his disciples' feet and the institution of the Lord's Supper. That is why it's called Maundy Thursday, because it is Jesus showing his disciples love. And Maundy comes from the Latin word for commandment. And so we have this mandate, right, or Maundy. We have this mandate, this new command that Christ gave them, which was to love one another. We see that in the foot washing passage, just a little after it in John chapter 13. It says in verse 34, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples if you have loved one another." So John the Apostle is emphasizing the love that Jesus is displaying in the humility of washing the feet of the road-worn disciples walking all over the dusty, dirty city. Before the supper, he ties a towel around his waist and he cleans all of their feet and he serves. Even though he is the Son of God, he has humbled himself to serve the men that he's spent the last 3 years of his life investing in, because he knows that they are going to be his witnesses. They are going to go out and have to serve and become pastors, become shepherds, become apostles. And so he wants to shepherd them with his great love. And we also know that he shows his love in the Lord's Supper by giving us a continuing ritual, something that we are to do often, which is to take the bread and the cup and eat and drink together. You may have heard me preach a couple of weeks ago at Tomball Bible where I talked about that that's something that we can't really do right now, and it's really sad and kind of tough, especially when we're thinking about it on days like today and headed into Good Friday and Easter, because that is something that helps us not just remember, but commune with Jesus. And so that's why it's often called communion. And in that, there's an attitude of thanksgiving. That's why some traditions call it the Eucharist. Eucharist means thanksgiving. There's this attitude of love and thankfulness that permeates all of these things. Even though they're solemn and we need to kind of approach them soberly, these events have this amazing, joyful expression to them. This thankfulness and this compassion that's rooted throughout, because that's what the gospel is. And so as we're thinking through Maundy Thursday today, we want to remember Christ's love, that he didn't come to be served, but to serve. In Philippians chapter 2, the Apostle Paul says that Christ actually condescended. He humbled himself. He took on the nature of a servant. And that is the same attitude that we should have as believers. And we see the same thing here in John chapter 13. So as we think about Maundy Thursday, one application that we can always have is not just to think about the ritual of the Lord's Supper or the kind of feel-good story of Jesus serving his disciples and humbling himself to wash their feet, but also remember that it is his example that we are called to imitate. We are called to love one another as brothers and sisters in Christ, and we are called to love our neighbor and to take that gospel message of love and reconciliation to the world. And I know that it seems difficult to do right now, given that we're all supposed to stay at home. But even in just these simple moments, these 5 to 10 minute devotionals, take some time afterwards to read through John 13, read through this passage and see how Jesus, his love permeates the whole passage. And that is indeed because we have the commandment, Maundy Thursday, the mandate, the commandment to love one another, to love our neighbors as ourselves. So I love you, church. I'm looking forward to celebrating Good Friday tomorrow. We will not have one of these devotions tomorrow because we will actually have the Good Friday service at 7 p.m. It will be live. We'll stream that to YouTube and to the website. We would love to stream to Facebook, but those things don't really play well together, so we've typically been streaming to our website and to YouTube, but we will, of course, publish the link on Facebook. But we hope to see all of you there at 7 p.m. tomorrow night as we sing some songs. Pastor John Hattenberger is going to share a bit about Jesus' sacrifice, as that's what we're commemorating and remembering. It's going to be a little bit more solemn because that's the way Good Friday works, but also you can't help but see it charged with joy and ready and just kind of dripping with hope. And so we're excited to do that tomorrow. But as you go throughout the rest of today, do take some time to think of the commandment to love one another and to love our neighbors. Love you, church.